Hey, I'm Merl, and if you've been following along, you'll know a little bit about the dump truck. If you haven't, well, I'm hoping this video is going to help you understand why you might need bigger injectors and whether decap ones are the right way to go for you. In this case, we have a 6-liter put in where a 4.8 used to be, and I still have the 4.8-liter injectors in here. Now, we still have to pull them out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go against all of my training, and I am going to take these injectors and I'm going to decap them, as well as I have a couple other sets of injectors. We're going to look at a scale over at the computer. We're going to look at how we can find the information on what injectors we are. And yes, this video is about decapping, so I'm going to show you the decapped injectors, but I'm not going to go through a big time-consuming procedure for that. In order to do this, you are going to need some equipment. So before we go over to the computer, I'm just going to go over what I have. I have the MPVI4 from HP Tuners. I'm using the ProLink on it as well. I have in that a fuel pressure sensor, because that's going to be important to know whether your fuel pump is the problem or whether it's an injector problem. And I also have a wideband plumbed into the exhaust so that I can actually read what's coming out the exhaust to do a proper tune on this. If you're looking for injectors because you might want to be doing a swap from a certain engine to a certain engine and you're not sure what to start with, if you go to PSI's website, we'll throw a picture up of their website. I don't know if we can put a link in, maybe we'll do that as well. And as well, we'll throw some pictures of the injectors that we're actually using. And so the injectors that we're going to be testing are the original 2007 4.8 liter injectors out of this truck. Now, I'm saying 2007 in a couple spots here. In 2007, you could have had a Gen 3 or a Gen 4 LS. We're all going to talk Gen 3 LS. That's what these injectors are. So we have the 07 4.8, we have an 07 6-liter, and then we have injectors out of a 2001 6-liter. And they all have the same part number, except for the 2001 injectors. I have no idea what they were out of. They were in an intake I had, and they have 3 injectors that are aftermarket injectors that I'm excited to test the difference of. But the main injectors that we are looking for in this whole test, they're all the same part number, except for those aftermarket ones that are in with the rest, is 25317628. I've been through lots of training courses and all of them say do not use decapped injectors. And the reason why is you can't get correct data. Now, I haven't tested any of these injectors. I'm going to be pulling the injectors out of the truck. We're going to be putting them in here and we're going to test all of them. And we're not going to clean them first. We'll test them. We'll clean them all. And then we'll retest them and see how close they all are. Usually the factory injectors, after we run them through a cleaner, I do lots of them, they're usually really close together. When we decap them, that's going to change. The reason we're using 3 sets, lots of guys can get them out of 2 sets, but I'm hoping that maybe I can end up having an extra spare set because you never know what happens. We're going to clean, decap all these, hopefully get 2 sets of injectors. The reason why I'm even going down this road, well, if you've been following, you'll see this is going to be a fun truck. What I've done is taken an LQ4 and we put some 799 heads on it, and we put a Track Max cam in that's pretty much identical to the sloppy stage 2. So do I need bigger injectors? Well, if we have the monitors of the fuel pressure as well as the injector duty cycle compared to the actual AFR, we're going to be able to tell whether we need bigger injectors. And just so happens, I started tuning this truck and ran into a problem where my duty cycle on the injectors, before I'm done tuning, before I've got it turned up, I'm running out of duty cycle. So what I want to do is talk to you about duty cycle, because people may not understand that. Is duty cycle is on time versus off time of an injector. So at idle, my duty cycle is going to be very small. I'm going to have a very small percentage, because that's how duty cycle works, the percentage. At idle, I don't know. We'll look on the actual data log, but the duty cycle is going to be a very small percentage. And then at the higher end, when I'm in higher RPM, the duty cycle is going to be a high percentage. And the highest percentage that you really want to consider actual control of an injector is 80% on time. Because when you get over that 80%, you basically have the injectors turned on full. 80% when you're in the tuning courses, stuff like that, 80 to 85% is basically max on an injector. And we are well over that. And I'll show you the data logs to show you the journey I went to figure out that my injectors are not big enough. Okay, I am pulling an early log file up and we will share it with you. So I guess the first thing to look at on here is the injector duty cycle, but I'm going to show you why it is so wild on this thing. So as I'm tuning this thing, I always want to make it really rich to start, but if I move the slider along here, the duty cycle, you'll see that number just get crazy. So it's trying to fire the injectors more than 100%. And in here, I mean, the top number we get to is crazy high. What is it at? 137% duty cycle until I let off. Yeah. So the truck is not making any power. We're having a serious problem with it. So if we look over on this side here, we take and first of all, I have my air fuel ratio is 11.465, which is really, really rich. We are not going to be making any power there. As well, if you look here, my fuel pressure is actually a tiny bit on the low side, but I think we're going to be able to be okay with this because it floats around quite a bit at that, but it is maintaining the fuel pressure. So these two things here, having the fuel pressure plumbed in, the wideband plumbed in, and this injector duty cycle, these numbers that we're looking at here are going to be very important. And you know what? I'll do another video on how to set up a screen like this so that anyone that is wanting to know how we got that, it's pretty easy. Anyways, so this data log. I'll go to the latest data log that I was using. So what I have here is I am getting up to the top end. We're at 89% duty cycle. And as I roll along in this, we get into 94% duty cycle. So over what we would normally want to see. And in this, if you look down here, I am targeting anywhere with the AFR. My target is 12.8 to 13.2, so it's floating back and forth really good in there. Now, my timing, I need to work on big time because my intake is very restrictive on this as well as the exhaust, but that's neither here nor there. But if you look at this as well, we are going to see that my fuel pressure is still really good. So I am pretty sure the pump is going to be fine, but these injectors at this duty cycle, we are going to have to decap them. So that's what brought me to this video. Really, I guess I should back up a little bit. This is a fuel injector. This part aims down into the intake, and we have the fuel rail on top of here. So when we're looking at that number of 58 to 60 PSI, that's on the top of this. On the bottom of this, we have some really tiny little holes in the bottom there. Not sure if that's going to focus. And those little tiny holes are where the fuel goes into the intake. And this has got a little tiny it's a little electronic solenoid that controls the fuel at a very, very precise rate. And so normally on a GM, and I don't know who does it the other way, but anyway, we feed power to these all the time. And the computer controls the negative side of these, or the ground side, and it pulses it really, really, really fast. And so I have to pull the injectors out on the truck and I'll show you exactly where they live, and we'll do some yanking them out and show you how that happens. On these GM injectors, the connectors, like, I mean, they look really nice and everything, but I see them broke all the time because they do not release well, especially when they're a little older. So you're supposed to be able to just pull up on the blue part, which is easy, and then push in on this little tab. But I think what happens is people get frustrated and yank on them and wreck them. So what I've found is you take a little pick like this, and you just get it underneath the front of that, and you release the tab with this little pick under here. Super easy. They come off way better than fighting with that. So I'm going to get all the connectors off and we'll move on. Normally on the passenger side, you're going to find on the fuel rail right here, there's a black cap. Underneath that cap is a Schrader valve. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to relieve fuel pressure. You're going to want to relieve fuel pressure, but when you're doing this job, you're going to end up having a fuel mess anyway. I have my fuel pressure sensor in here. I'm not worried about relieving the pressure. So if we go over to the other side, the fuel line right here is hooked up. You probably wouldn't have to pull the main fuel line off, but I'm going to get it out of the way. So I have this little tool. It's meant to release the clip inside of here. So sometimes this can be a little bit tricky. What you want to do is push it in good and solid, pull the fuel line ahead so it's released, and then push this back together. And the fuel line is off, and we're making a fuely mess, which is just the start of it. Now, right underneath here, down below here, you're going to find there's a bolt here. There's one on the other side, the same. There's 4 bolts holding the fuel rail on. All we're going to do is take and undo those bolts, and then we'll be able to lift fuel line off. Normally, you are going to have a little metal clip that's going to hold the injectors into the fuel rail. Just from experience and because it's my own vehicle, I didn't put them on because I was suspecting that I would run into, with the cam swap and what I've done, the limit of these injectors. So normally what you do is just pull up on the fuel rail and it would hold the injectors in. In this case, they might stay in the intake. They might come off in the fuel rail. We're going to find out. All of these injectors are staying in the fuel rail. So we can just pull them out and make more of a fuely mess in here. I'll get the rest of the injectors out. I have the good old injector tester set up here. And what I've done is, if you take a look, I've engraved on the injectors the year of the vehicle, what it came out of. I could use the RPO code from the engine and then the placement. And so this is a 07 4.8 liter in position number 5. So these are all laid out in order and I have them in the tester. I have my fuel pressure set. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through the process of testing in idle, medium speed, and high speed tests, and we'll record the data. Now, there's one thing that I wanted to highlight on this tester. It's a cheapie. I'm very thankful I have it because it works very well, but the graduations don't line up perfectly. So I know where to measure across these to make sure they're perfect. I've used this a lot, so we'll have some good numbers to come from. If we look across the idle test, they are all extremely even, and we're at about 8 milliliters. So it might be hard to tell, but our spray pattern in there looks really good. So I don't see any issues with spray patterns, nothing. These injectors were taken out of the 4.8, put right back in, not tested, not anything. I'm really liking these 4 anyways. So negligibly, these are a tiny bit, just a hair higher than the other ones. Can't even really, I wouldn't say that they're measurable higher if you look straight across here. You know what? This one is about a mil higher. So 22 and 23. So on the high speed test, these two are just slightly higher than the other ones, especially looking across from the end. We'll take a look once this all settles out. So those are about 2 mils higher. This one might be a tiny bit higher, but for injector's sake, we're pretty close. So, yeah. All right, we'll get the injectors swapped out and keep running the tests on all these injectors. We'll get all the data, we'll clean them, and show you the results. All right, I've run across something that I run into quite often, and sometimes I can get back, sometimes I can't. So these are out of the 2001 6-liter intake that I got, and these 3 are the aftermarket ones. Now, this vehicle was kind of unknown, had sat for a long time. When I pulled the injectors out of the rail, it smelled like paint thinner. But I see this when vehicles sit for a while. People say, hey, we got a running issue. Can you check the injectors? And this is exactly what happens. So I have 2 dead injectors. What I'm going to do is run the tests, and I'm going to actually pull these ones out and see if I can find... Oh, I just got a squirt out of that one. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to just run the test real quick to see if I can force these to go. If not, I'll mix the other injectors in, get data, and start cleaning those injectors and see what we can get out of them. Here is the data we have so far. And these are the aftermarket ones, 2, 3, and 4. And these ones are all dead out of that set. So unfortunately, so far 3 we have. We have them in the cleaner right now, firing them. And hopefully, there's a lot of crud coming out of stuff. Hopefully, maybe some will come around. I'll get in real close here. I'm not sure if you can hear. We're firing the injectors in the ultrasonic cleaner. Okay, I ran these injectors. I just left them in the cleaner and I swapped between the 2. And when they're in the cleaner, I can feel the injectors, if they're actually firing, making noise. So they went in half an hour each with the plugs on firing them, and they all started making noise. So I'm assuming they're all going to fire. And as you can see before, we had number 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8 were dead. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we will run these. Well, if you look, one of these dead ones here, this is at idle. These 2 were dead. I think they're overproducing. We might have to throw them through the cleaner again. They're sticking open. But look at that. Well, I'm going to throw the other set in and see what they do. The other 4 are in, and let's take a look at this now. So they are all firing. And these ones look like they are a little closer. So I'll run the test on these. We'll see what the data comes out like. Okay, here is all the data from all the three sets. We have the 4.8, the 0.7 6 liter, and the 0.1 6 liter. Now, if you look, there is the first number with a slash and the second number. So that's pre-cleaning at idle to after cleaning, pre-cleaning at mid-speed to after, pre-cleaning at high speed to after. And there are definitely some changes, but it's mainly in this high speed section. So I'm not sure if it's the cap part that's the problem or the injectors are dirty. And then if we take a look at these ones that had been sitting here and these ones with the line through were dead, we did get them back, but some of the numbers are pretty skewed. So the plan is I'm going to decap these, all of them, and we'll get the data, but I am going to, before I run any data on these, I'm going to clean them all with the cap off and see how they straighten out. I've started the process of getting these injectors ready, but we'll let you in on how we do that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get an O-ring pick. We're going to get under that O-ring. We'll pull it off. And then I have these pliers. You can buy them anywhere. They're really cheap. And this is meant for taking a hose off of a steel line, like a nipple, whatever. And I just take and put them on here. Now, if you overdo it, this is going to go flying. I want to keep all these parts. You can buy kits, O-ring kits, filter kits, everything for these. I'm going to try and just use all these old parts. Even though they are cheap, I'm sure you can get them online super cheap. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to try and reuse everything I can. Okay. So that is the bottom part off. You don't need to take the rest off. I mean, there's ways you can grab them with a drill to grind them, whatever. I'm going to show you the process that I use. But first of all, let's take a real close look at the bottom of the injector here. Now on this injector, this has got a cap, and the cap has actually got a lip that goes over. This cap goes all the way around, and then this dark line right there is where it's welded on. Tons of videos on how to get these off, but this is one that I have taken off right here. So when that cap is off, you see that there is just that ball in the middle there. And this is where that cap was limiting the flow on these. So I have ground this in on an edge to get that little weld off. Now, I did one part way, and you can see this right here is the cap, and it is just a tiny little thin piece, and that's all there is to it. So we'll take you over to the grinder and I'll show you how I do this. All right, this is my disc grinder, and it has got a really worn out disc on it, which is my preference. Now, you don't want to be flat on, but if you're like this, you're going to be grinding a long time getting that cap off. You want to be on a tiny bit of an angle. So the outer ring just popped off. We got to get past that weld. And on this, I can see it usually go flying. You can see I'm just getting past the weld. And it is off. Didn't even see it go flying that time. I have all of these to get decapped, so it's going to take a little while. And then we will take a look at how they flow and what kind of data we get out of them. They're all decapped. Some of them are in the tester already, but oops, I almost missed it. I want to show you how this goes together. Pretty simple. All we need to do is, before the cap is on, just slip the O-ring on so you're not fighting with it. Flip that cap over, give it a push, it just pop right on. Okay, the data's in. It ends up really interesting because we have the injectors that we know just ran. We have these injectors that have been sitting, I don't know, a couple few years. And then we have these injectors, which are unknown, sitting a long time. And when we decap these, we end up coming up, well, we already know what these numbers are. These are the decap numbers. And we have quite a few that ended up, the same. I have enough right now to make a full set of 8 that are exactly dead on. And what I'll do is I'm going to run those together, but those are the ones that are going to be going in the truck and we're going to be good. But if you take a look at this, these were the set that ran recently, and the numbers are a lot better than the ones that have sat a couple years compared to the ones that have been sitting for an undetermined time. These are terrible. So getting them from a junkyard might be a bit of an issue that you might want to avoid. If you see here, I have deep creep and I have STP stable. Well, I'm going to do another video and I'm going to see if I'm going to try a bunch of different cleaners. I'm going to see if there's some kind of a household thing that you would be able to do to bring back maybe some of these injectors that are totally foobar. Anyways, I'm going to take these injectors now, sort them out, get them back in the truck, and we'll fire it up. So that's the end of this video. Look for the other videos because we're going to look at how I can get the injector data from this into the ECU, because we're going to be able to calculate data here, as well as we're going to see if we can bring back some of the injectors that are totally wrecked. So if you don't mind, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.